Okay, so hello, if y'all do not know me, I'm the wellness intern here with the wellness team. And today I'm going to be going over to how to create a workout exercise plan. And we have a lot of information to get through. So if you have any questions, I will get questions at the end. So this is the OPT model. It was created and used by the National Academy of Sports Medicine. And it's a model that I'm learning right now in their program for personal training certification. And I think it's a really good model to be using, especially when just dividing exercise programs into these different phases. So as you can see here, it is made up of 3 different levels with 5 phases in each one. So the first level is your stabilization endurance phase. And then the strength level is strength endurance, hypertrophy, maximal strength. And then your last level is going to be power. And we'll be dividing each level and going through each one. So the first one I'm going to be talking about is the endurance phase, which is your foundation. And this phase is very, very important, and a lot of people forget it. When they're creating an exercise routine, you always have to incorporate this because this is a phase that you're going to be doing a lot of core training, a lot of cardio to help with your heart function, improving it, improving your balance, your joint stability, and your range of motion. Because if you do not have this foundation, it's going to be really difficult and you can increase injury when you start doing heavier loads, heavier weight. So you definitely want to create a foundation. And one way that you can create an unstable, stable environment is just increasing instability in your exercises. So, for example, here's a push up, and if you want to make it more proprioceptively enriched, you can add different things that will challenge your balance, challenge those joint muscles, and all those things. And when you're doing these kind of exercises, you want to do low loads and high repetitions with little rest in between to get that cardio in. And because you want to do the reason why you want to do low loads is because when you're doing these exercise, again, you're doing it in an uncontrollable way. So you want to make sure you're doing it safely. You don't want to do high weight with these. So make sure you're doing low loads. And some examples of these that you could do with different equipment. We have free weights. Free weights are really good because they just kind of challenge you when you're lifting in air versus a machine that is more restrictive when it comes to the different motions that you're doing. Bosu balls are really good. You can see that it comes from a flat surface into more of an unstable surface, challenging that core even more. Air Max pads are also used when challenging different stances. You could use those. Cables are also really great. Resistance bands also challenge your joints. Yoga balls also challenge the core if you ever want to incorporate that from making a flat surface into more of a challenging surface. And then changing up your stances will also help too. So from double leg to single leg, or even bilateral instead of doing a double. So instead of doing a squat, you can do lunges instead. Um, so that's one way of doing it. So next we're going to be talking about the next level in our OPT model. So the next level to when you're doing an exercise program, once you have that foundation, you want to start building up on your strength endurance. And the goal for this model or this level here is you want to increase your lean body mass. And the way that you can do that is one way is through supersets. And you've probably heard that term before, but the definition of a superset is when you do one traditional exercise um, on top of an exercise that's going to challenge your stability. So these exercises that we were talking about in the previous slides, you're going to do them back to back. So one superset, you can see there's different examples here, but to give a little bit of pictures to them are the seated cable rows. And with these, this is the more stability, challenging your stability, and then this is more focused on strength, and they're both targeting the same muscle, and they're doing them back to back. So after you do one set of these or one rep of these, you're going to do the next one, and back to back, and then you do your rest, and then you do it again. So same thing with dumbbell lunges. This is the stability exercise, and then this is a strength one. And then back to back, give yourself a little bit of rest before you do the next step. And when you're doing strength endurance, you're doing moderate load. So now you're adding weight to it, higher weights with moderate repetitions. And here are some examples of different supersets. As you can see here, different chest press. You have a little bit more of an unstable versus stable one. Again, the different stability versus the strength that you can do to target that strength endurance. And when you're doing these, the reason why they do supersets is because you're focusing on strength endurance, yes, getting stronger, but also fatiguing that muscle. So you want to be able to last long, and that's what you're trying to get your muscles to get used to. So the next thing we have in our OPT model is the hypertrophy phase. So the goal in this phase is to increase muscle mass. That's what hypertrophy means, is to increase your muscle. So with these, the difference between hypertrophy and endurance is with hypertrophy, the goal isn't to exhaust the muscle to its extent. It's more to increase the difficulty and increase that weight even more slightly than what you were working on. So you see here is a walking lunge. That's the stability part of it. Your first, kind of like your first step. And then once you feel like you've gotten used to those or they're too easy, then you can go on to the next thing, which is more of a static lunge, but you're increasing your weight. And then if you want to increase the weight even more, make it more difficult, now you have a goblet lunge. And with this, in the hypertrophy phase, you want increased volume to moderate to high loads. And you also want to do lower repetitions when you're doing higher weights, especially when you're doing higher weights, because then you're not targeting maximal strength anymore. You're doing more of an endurance. So make sure you decrease your reps as you increase the weight. So moving on to the next phase, which is our fourth phase, is maximal strength. And what that looks like is you're trying to increase motor unit recruitment. So how fast your muscles are recruiting to create this or do this movement. And one example again is that lunge, the lunge example. So instead of the lunge, now you're doing these leg extensions. They're targeting the same muscle, but now you're increasing the load. And another thing, when you're increasing load, you also want to be careful in the type of exercise you do. Because let's say you're doing some serious weight on these goblet lunges, you want to be careful with that because you can hurt yourself. So when you're doing higher loads, you want to do more of a controlled machine, a machine that doesn't require a spotter, because um, you don't want to increase your risk of an injury, because it's so easy to quit when you start an exercise program, but it's so hard to start. So we don't want to cause any injury. So that's the whole purpose of this model here, is we're taking it step by step to help you increase your maximal performance. And with this, again, as you increase your weight, you want to do lower reps. And then also, you also want to do higher rest periods. And we could talk more about that. I have another picture to show with that one. Okay, and the last phase on our OPT model is power. So with the power phase, the whole goal of this level is to increase rate of force production. So that means speed, agility, the amount of force that you can produce when using a weight. So that means when you're doing these exercises, the tempo is going to be faster. The amount of force that you're giving it your all, almost like max force. And with this, again, higher weight and low repetition. And you can also do supersets when it comes to this power level. And here are just some examples of different power exercises that you can do. Any polymetric exercise where it causes, where you need to jump squats, any of those things, burpees are great power exercises. Box jumps are great. Any free weights are great. Just again, increasing that tempo. Row machine is really good. Medicine balls are great. The ropes and sleds. And again, these are just different levels in the OPT model. You don't exactly have to do this order. You can do it a mix of order. So again, you can do different power ones, but decrease the intensity. And once you feel like you're ready for the next step, you can increase intensity. But again, this is just a mix of different things. Just remember there are different steps when it comes to an exercise program. And basically, with this exercise program and this OTP model is just trying to show people is you don't, there's steps to different things. You don't want to do power first before you create your foundation first. And another thing you want to look out for when you're creating and doing these exercises and experimenting with them is overcompensation. Overcompensation is something that we can see when people do different exercises. They're losing their form, different parts of their muscles are overcompensating than the muscle that you're trying to target. For example, this chest fly, this cable chest fly right here, um, this is the correct form down here. And then these top pictures, you can see this person is overcompensating, arching their back, having their head forward, or even their shoulders. So instead of targeting the chest, it's targeting different parts of the body that it's not supposed to. So when these things happen, when you feel like your weight is shifting, that you're getting out of form during the exercise, from the beginning, if that's happening, either the weight is too much and you need to decrease the weight, or you need to decrease the reps. So once you're doing the reps, but on the 15th rep, you're starting to feel like your body's overcompensating, that's when you should stop because this can cause an injury if if you're not getting ahead of it. So another question that a lot of people get is, yes, they may know exercises, they have an idea of it, but they don't have an idea of how many reps, sets, how much weight they should do, or how long they should rest. So here are just some graphs that I found in my textbooks and online that you can look up. It just depends on what your goals are, whether it's endurance, hypertrophy, or working on your power. Um, that's going to determine how many reps and sets you should do. So if you look at this graph down here with all these different colors for strength, power, hypertrophy, and muscular endurance, focus on the yellow. The yellow is supposed to be the optimal zones for each rep level. So if you're working on endurance, you should be doing higher reps, so in that 12 to 20 range. Whereas if you're doing power, you want to focus more on the weight and the way that your body is moving into that range versus how many reps you're doing. So therefore, you should be doing less, about 6 to 2. Um, and then when it comes to weight, I mentioned it a little bit as I was going through each level, but when you're doing the weight, when you're doing endurance, you want to start off with low weights. As you get higher, you're going to do moderate weight, high rep, high weight, and then when you get to power, high weight but high speeds as well. And then for different rest periods, um, if you're working on endurance, the rest period should at least be 30 seconds, but no more, because again, you're working on fatiguing that muscle as fast as you can. So it's really quick for endurance. Whereas strength, you're working more on the force of things. So you need your body to rest a little bit longer versus endurance. So the different rest periods are different. And then if again you want to make sure the weight you're doing is right, and the way that you do that is depending on what your goal is. So let's say your goal, for example, is muscular endurance. Usually I have somebody um, do 12 reps on a smaller weight, and after they're done with their 12 reps, I ask them, how many more could you do? If you feel like you could do 3 or more, um, then you can do higher reps. So I give them a rest break and then I have them do it again, and they feel like that's too easy, then you can increase the weight or you can increase the rep. So you just kind of got to experiment with it. So try to do a full rep or a full set without overcompensating. You feel good, you feel comfortable, and you feel like you couldn't do any more than one rep. So that's a good way to determine what weight is good for you. Um, and again, like putting it all together, it's just all experimental. um, and just again doing it safely. You want good form, you don't want to overcompensate if you're getting out of form, or else you will um, cause an injury. So other important things to remember, Some important things to remember is make sure you include cardio into your exercise program. Just because cardio is a lot of things that is forgotten. You can look it up in any exercise book. There is the recommended amount for cardio is 150 minutes per week of moderate to light exercise. And then, or you could do 75 minutes a week of, it's actually supposed to be intense or vigorous exercise. So getting cardio in, whether it's a warm up, whether it's a cool down, you want to make sure you get that in because cardio is super important when it comes to your heart health. So make sure incorporating that into your program. Um, I did see the question. I don't see the sign in form. I'll make sure to send that out at the end. Um, so moving on to cool down and warm up, you want to make sure you're doing that the way that they taught us how to remember a warm up. A warm up should be something that raises your heart rate, activate your muscles, mobilizes your joint, and potentiate intensity. Because again, you don't want to risk an injury that's hindering your progress. So warm ups are really important, whether it's 5 minutes, 2 minutes, just getting a quick one will help, especially for that workout that day. And cool down is super important. Make sure you stretch, foam room, or some massage, put a heat pad, anything. Cool down is very important so that you can continue that reduce soreness, reduce injury, and in keeping your flexibility as you increase your exercise intensity. And then the last thing is modality. I did want to mention modality. And what I mean by modality is I mean the different variants of exercises that you do. So if you're somebody who does exercise, the same routine every day, um, the chances are it may have worked for you at the beginning, but the body is so adaptable and super, super it gets used to the different stresses that we put on it. So most likely your body's already used to that workout. So if you want to increase your strength, increase your ability and your performance, you want to change it up, use different weights, use different exercise, change your stances, change even the different type of exercise. Instead of the gym, go for a bike ride or a run or do a sport, just different so that you can continue your progress, which is what a lot of people don't know. But again, I wanted to mention it. And I think that was the last slide I had when it comes to exercise routines and creating an exercise plan. All right, let me see. Let me go ahead and send out the form really quick so everyone can sign in. And then I will take questions right now and read the chat. Okay, so the chat says, somebody said, if you do weights and cardio, is there a best way to do them? Do weightlifting first, then cardio, vice versa. So again, the OTP model that I showed, and let me show that again, just so people know what I'm referring to. The OPT model is just you don't have to do it step by step. You can do a different variants of it, a different variants of different like stability exercise, weightlifting exercise. But when it comes to the reps and loads, that's the main thing that you're looking for. So if you're going to work on the machines instead of doing free weights, that's okay. But again, you want to do low loads, high repetitions to increase endurance before you go into strength and then go into power is the main thing. Kevin said in the past that it's better for weights first. So I think what he meant for this is resistance training is really good. Resistance training. Oh, that is for okay. Thank you, Tammy. I'll resend it. Okay, try that one. Hopefully that one's the right one. So what I think he meant by this is that resistance training is also good for losing weight too. resistance training, cardio, you don't always have to do cardio. Resistance training is also good. So doing weights, circuit training, you can do circuit training with weights is also good for losing weight. Um, so don't be afraid if your goal is to lose weight. You don't have to always do cardio. You can do circuit training or endurance training with weights. And you can also, a lot of people get the misconception that you won't burn as many calories with cardio, but with resistance training, it's been shown that you burn calories even after the workout. So again, don't be afraid of weights or the machines or anything like that. Now I'm going to send out the form one more time just in case anybody's gotten it. But if anybody else has any questions, I'll stay a little bit longer. But thank you all so much for coming. Don't forget our next Wellness Wednesday is, I believe, the 25th of August, and it's our last one for the summer. Okay. If you're unable to open the link, try copying and paste it into Chrome. And if that doesn't work for you, I can take your name and manually put in your points for it. I can send the presentation. I'll send it out to the, I'll send out the presentation for sure. And this has also been recorded, so I'll make sure to post this on the YouTube too. You're welcome, everyone. Hope to see you at the next one. Did copying and pasting it in Chrome help, or should I take, I can take your name and manually put in your points too. I'm gonna go ahead and stop recording now.